We're all here for a small agenda.
Yes.
We're small when we have a big agenda. New one? From Lindon. From Lindon.
Might show up for a minute.
Yeah, the lenders put it on, well, it's more of the residential lenders.
I'm good at that. No, it's the residential guys.
Generally, well, some pretty
Monsters. Such big cars.
Yeah, they do.
in my calendar.
I've got a couple of cost reviews I gotta do for big loan committee on Thursday. That if I get them done, maybe I'll swing over there.
What do you call it?
For sure.
Trump stuff is gonna do to prices.
Mike, are we ready? Okay. We'd like to welcome you to our Planning Commission meeting today on April 15th, 2025. We'll begin with an invocation by Commissioner Thompson, and then Commissioner Danielson will lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Our Heavenly Father, as we come before Thee on this beautiful day, we're so grateful for our many blessings, especially for the opportunity we have to live in this beautiful country and this beautiful city. We're so grateful for the opportunity as commissioners to serve this wonderful community. We ask today as we go through the agenda, we may be thoughtful and make choices that are in the best interest of the city and the citizens. We're grateful. We ask Thee now to bless the military, law enforcement, and all those who are protecting us and keeping us safe. And we say these things in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen. Amen.
Please join us in saying the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We're going to begin with an audible roll call, but I want to ask one question real quick before. The item on the agenda, Rob is going to recluse himself, and so should we acknowledge Commissioner Doan to be here and have him take his place for that vote? Is that appropriate, or?
I think he could vote on approving the agenda, but then step down for his.
Right, but then can we have Commissioner Doan take his place?
Have him take his spot. Okay. Yep. He's got his plaque in his hand and he's
perfect,
ready to go. So
we'll do an audible roll call of even our alternate today. Okay, we'll start with our audible roll call. Sharon Call.
Here.
Mike Marchbanks.
Here.
Rob Callis.
Here.
Steve Johnson here. Scott Thompson.
Here.
Jared Showers.
Here.
Karen Danielson.
Here.
And Ryan Doan.
Here.
The next item on our agenda is the approval of the minutes from our last meeting on March 25th. The commissioners have received these beforehand and had a chance to review them. Are there any additions or corrections to the minutes as they're printed?
Looks good to me.
Okay, if the minutes are good as printed, do we have a motion to approve them?
I'll make that motion.
Okay. Rob did. I'll second it.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? The voting is unanimous. Item 3 on our agenda is a time for public comment. This is a time for anybody that's here for an item that's not on the agenda and would like to address the commission. Now is the time that they can do that. Is there anybody here for that purpose? Okay, seeing none, we'll move on to item 4 of our agenda, and at this time
I'd like to recuse myself.
we'll have Commissioner Callis step down and Commissioner Doan take his place.
I always have to have something to screw all my thoughts on.
Item number 4 is a ordinance amendment, so this will be a recommendation to the city council. This is concerning flag lots. Our applicant is Rob Callis, who's here, and our presenting staff is Michael Florence.
Well, thank you, commissioners. It's great to be with each of you tonight, and thank you for being here. Mr. Callis has made an application to amend the city flag lot ordinance, which is 17.32.290. That's our flag lot subdivision ordinance. The main gist of the amendment is to allow 2 adjoining flag lots to share one shared driveway. Is kind of the gist of what the ordinance amendment would allow or is being proposed. And then the city also took the time to go through the ordinance with our city engineering department and our deputy fire marshal and update the ordinance so that it met current fire code requirements and other standards. So I'm going to go through a number of those, but I've kind of prepared this simplistic diagram. It's kind of, we'll explain a little bit about what the ordinance does, but this, for example, if you had 2 adjoining lots, lot 1 and lot 2, and they had enough acreage behind their properties and enough frontage that they wanted to propose 2 flag lots behind their properties, that's what this diagram would show. And so, for example, each lot 1 and lot 2 would have to keep at least 100 feet of frontage for both those lots. That's the city requirement. And then one of the lots, so let's say lot 2, could create a flag lot with a shared driveway behind them. And so the city flag lot ordinance requires a 25-foot driveway width, or 25 feet of, sorry, not driveway width, requires a 25-foot frontage, and they call it the flag pole of the flag lot. So this shared driveway or flag pole would be part of lot 3. The setbacks, here you can see the setbacks on that lot. It would have to have a minimum 20,000 square feet. That hasn't changed in this draft. But what has changed is lot 4 could be adjoining. Right now the ordinance requires that there be 2 parcels or lots in between any flag lot. So this would allow them to be adjoining, and then it would allow them to share that shared flagpole portion or driveway. They would have to have on the plat, they would have to have a recorded right-of-way easement and a public utility easement going down that flagpole portion so that lot 4 would be able to have access and utility right-of-way access and utility access. Let's say lot 3 was developed and lot 4 came years later, then they would still have to sign some type of easement on lot 3 and record that with the county recorder's office for right-of-way easement and public utilities. And so this is kind of just a diagram to help show that. Again, the setbacks don't change, and they're not proposed to change on that. So any questions so far? Like, yeah.
Do they have to be side by side like that, or does that say, hypothetically speaking, it was a really deep and narrow lot, they could do 1 lot, 2 lots, all both to the right, as long as they're both adjoining? So you come up like,
Assuming lot 4 was in back of lot 3,
right?
and it got narrow back there, I would think it should work that way as well. You see what he's...
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I see that. I'm just making sure before I speak.
Because the language says they are abutting.
Right.
They are abutting.
Yeah.
It would just require the flagpole to be longer.
Well, it would also require the easement to be wider, because 15 feet. The setback would have to be different on lot 3 in order to accommodate what you're suggesting.
Yeah, 'cause it'd be the 25-foot flagpole, then another
Another
15
10
feet.
Another 10 feet.
Well,
Another
for
10.
the,
Yeah.
for the second one, right, the flag lot has to be 15 feet setback.
On the side yard setback and the,
And would that be from, in this case, would that be 15 feet from the flagpole driveway?
yes. So from this, I don't know if you can see my pointer, but it's gotta be 15 feet from this property line. So you would mirror exactly what's on lot 3 to lot 4. So you'd have to have another 15-foot side yard setback on lot 4.
Right, but I guess what I'm saying is if that flagpole was gonna go to another lot, that flag, in this case, right, the driveway's gonna go past that house on lot 3.
Commissioner Thompson's suggesting that lot 4 is sitting in back of lot 3, I think. Is
Yeah.
that what you're saying?
Correct, yeah. Is there
That's
anything,
not the purpose of this, is that you would have,
But that's what he's asking, is that
Stacked like
possible,
that.
or is this not?
is that clarified that that's not capable, we're not capable of doing that?
not clarified, but that hasn't been the intent of this. It would be that they're two side by side in a configuration. We may wanna write that in so that you don't have 3 lots, you know.
Stacked.
Yeah, well, what would be the reason why not? What,
Well, the reason that might not, but again, I could see it possibly working, as long as that lane didn't go beyond what our maximum cul-de-sac length is.
Correct.
Do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah, yeah.
But then I would also see that there would have to be 25 feet off of that house to get back to the next one in order to have a true 25% lane. I've seen that done, but I know that's not what you're trying to accomplish at this point.
Yeah, that has not been the intent of this.
And Mike, what I was saying is probably need 25 feet for the lane and then another 15 feet setback, so you're gonna have to have 40 feet
No,
for the
no,
property line. for
no,
the
not really,
driveway.
cause look at lot 2, you got a 25-foot lane and you're 10 feet off of it.
I guess that was my question, it's on the second property, would it have to be a 15
Current
foot?
ordinance requires 15, so
the
a
flag
standard
lot.
lot in Lindon only requires 10, but for some reason, whenever this ordinance was written, they required 15-foot setback, side yard setbacks.
And so that combination under current ordinance would have to be
What-
40 feet.
Yeah, and what the ordinance also says is your front lot line is the one that's parallel to the public street. So right above lot 2 here, this line is your front lot line there, so.
feet off?
It'd be almost impossible to make that work.
Can I ask a question? In this scenario, could you face your house, turn it 90 degrees at the front?
The ordinance doesn't say anything about that, the
Just
current ordinance,
had to be
or it just
parallel.
says you've gotta have a 30-foot front
Setback.
yard, yeah.
But the front of the yard could, like in this scenario, face the 15-foot. Would you then have to set it back 30 feet that way?
If the front of the house was that way.
And it'd be treated like a corner lot where you can call your side your front and your front your side. Have
Yeah,
that
let me
flexibility.
read that let me find that section really quick.
I was just wondering if both of the flag lots could face each other
Cause there's 2 lots
rather
behind
than
the old historical.
face the house in front of them, you know.
Oh, you mean whip it all the way around and turn
Yeah,
that?
so,
90 degrees.
so the ordinance, the current ordinance in section 11 says, for purposes of determining the setbacks of the flag lot, the front property line shall be the nearest line that is most parallel with the street from which the driveway accesses. Orientation of the dwelling is not regulated. So we haven't changed that. That's, so you could, you could have the home facing lot 4 with a 15-foot front yard setback.
Oh, okay.
Mike, do you recall what we did? There was a historic home north of me, north of the cemetery, on the right-hand side that quite a while back we subdivided into 3 lots. Do you recall how we did that? It was, cause it was a weird shaped lot up by up against the irrigation water basin.
Remember, let me pull this up. So here's the cemetery.
So go to the north. lot right there.
690.
Yes.
We only did one flag lot behind it.
Oh, because I recalled two. Okay, I was
Yeah,
just wondering.
and then he has decided not to go forward with that subdivision.
Okay. So I'm just,
Which subdivision
This-
was that gonna be?
He was doing a flag lot behind the existing home right here at
Okay.
690, but he decided, it was too much for him to put in all of the street improvements,
Okay.
and so he's decided not to do that.
What's this lot, 630 right there sitting there?
I'm not sure what that is.
that's actually,
Accessed by?
that's access to the home right to the south of it. That belongs to that home.
Sort of a
it's
shared
two-
driveway? If they
I
were
don't
to
think it's a
build on it?
buildable lot.
It's not buildable, you don't think?
I don't think it's set up that way.
It could be if it was 20,000 square feet according to
Yeah.
this, what we're talking about.
This could be,
tonight, right?
yes.
Yeah.
Mhm. Yeah, this would allow that. And I think since 2023, was it? I put in your staff report, we've approved what, 5 flag lot? Oh, since 2021, we've approved 5 flag lot subdivisions, so it's not a ton that we've done, but
So does this ordinance preclude flag lots in anything other than the R120? Is that? 'Cause you
Really, it's
said-
only
Because
the-
it says 20,000 square feet, so, but
The
is there a
R120.
possibility some year in the future, in some other part of the city, where somebody's coming to us wanting to do that on a 3rd acre?
there is the only one I know of is up here on the hillside, this property, right here on this cul-de-sac.
What's the address of that?
Jackson?
Yeah, it is Jackson, I think. This at 940, he would like to run a lane to the side here and make this a buildable lot in the future. But that's the only one I know of in the
figure out
R112
The
zone.
address of that, though.
I don't know, the county parcel map's not working, so I don't know the names of streets of these cul-de-sacs. It's 940.
So, but this ordinance would preclude that still, well, no, because that's a single flag lot.
This guy
He
could
could
do
go
a
back-
single flag
It would go
lot.
back to a single flag lot.
I mean, really in the R112 zone, the only place you may see him is on Jeff Acerson's property, if he develops that. And this ordinance would limit you to 2 flag lots per development. So,
They could be individual flag lots, or they could be a double,
yeah, but you get 2,
yeah.
yeah.
And the intent or the advantage to doing this is just use better use of the land or make more effective use of people's property, or is that the whole intent?
Yes, and, yeah, the intent, that and, maybe properties that don't have enough frontage, again, like you said, it's more efficient use. Provo City just went through this too, and they discouraged flag lots, and they've done a 180 where they now encourage flag lots on, and you can share a driveway, so I think cities are looking at this more. I provided a,
It's an infill, basically,
yeah,
implementation for better infill.
So Mike, on the example, the whole driveway was coming from one. Is there anything in the ordinance where the two fronts could divide that in half? Or would there have to,
Yeah,
because it's coming from 2 different, so the road would actually be on 2 different parcels, is that a problem?
yeah, we had a long discussion about that. Brian and I did. Rob and I also talked about it. And there's a couple things with that. First, I think maintenance of that lane long term. It does belong to a property where, let's say, one property didn't want to participate in the maintenance. So they could write that later on in their own agreements that they share the maintenance. But, so you do have one, for example, lot 3 that would maintain that, be responsible for at least, long-term maintenance of that flagpole. The other one was, what if, they had some mortgage problems or something like that, and it was split down the middle. Then you run into issues with, if lot 4 had mortgage problems, that then causes issues with lot 3 because they have split that by 12.5 feet each. And so we feel more comfortable having it on one, for example, lot 3, and then having some easements on the plat or having a recorded easement later on.
But it could be on either one. It could be on lot 4, just as easy as it is
Right,
on lot.
but I was just wondering, like, in this case, let's say lot 1 and lot 2, those are two separate owners, and they'd like to develop it in the back, and they both wanna take 12.5 feet from their each property.
Oh, they
And
could do
then that would
that.
then go to lot 3?
Yes, they could do that. Yes, they could each,
You can redraw the legal description on both,
yes,
adjust the plat to accommodate for the lane, is that?
that's correct. Yep.
So
Yeah.
the lane actually becomes, in this case, part of lot 3.
So let's say each lot had 112.5 feet of frontage. They could each take 12.5 feet and then assign it to lot 3 or 4.
Right.
Okay.
Is there any description about where the access to lot 4 would have to be? I mean, could that cause a problem down the road where they say, hey, I wanna access my driveway at the far north end of it? And then there's only that 15-foot easement, or is it designated, as soon as they come to the end of the flagpole, they have to turn left into their lot?
Yeah, I mean,
The lane has to end.
yeah, the lane does have to end at some point.
But does it designate where it ends? So, yeah.
Yeah, I think those two property owners are going to have, unless we want to write something in there in the ordinance, but those two property owners would have to work that out where the entrance is.
So
Couldn't
lot
go
4,
too
lot
deep,
4 would
or
have an
you
easement,
should close
right?
down the 20,000
So
square feet.
the easement would have to describe an endpoint of that lane.
Yep,
Right. Because the lane can't be considered part of the 20,000.
that's right.
So you have to say where the lane ends to see if you can meet the square footage requirement.
Yeah, and if it takes up too much of lot 3, that's gonna reduce the size of lot 3, and they're going to have to figure out how to get their 20,000 square feet.
But an easement doesn't reduce the size of the lot.
Yeah, I guess you're correct on that, yeah.
So the lane would probably end where lot 1 and 2 ends.
But they're gonna have to have an easement,
There'll
yeah.
have to be an easement.
To get access
Yeah.
lot 4.
Right.
Yep,
Yeah, a lot of different questions.
yes.
The way that's drawn, I don't know, the way that's drawn, it almost goes into that where's the 15-foot area, if that was a side load garage right there versus a front load garage.
And it could all be part of, let's say they had to have a fire truck turnaround too, that could all be part of their hammerhead
Yeah,
type
and that's
turnaround.
likely what it would be, is a hammerhead back there to facilitate it.
Yeah. A couple other things, in the flag lot ordinance, there was a couple sections that said the planning commission has the discretion to allow more flag lots. The planning commission has the discretion to say where the driveways are located. We took that out because the state wants us to get rid of they want you to follow the plain language. What do you mean, just put it in the ordinance? We want cities to get rid of the discretion. And so we've done that in the ordinance as well. Fire lanes, so we ran this by our deputy fire marshal with Orem City. Right now, our ordinance requires 16 feet of hard surface, and we've increased that to 20 feet. So that would be asphalt, concrete, or the fire code allows an alternative material that would support a 75,000-pound vehicle. So it could be one of those 3 options. More than likely, you're gonna see asphalt or concrete, but maybe gravel, some type of gravel may work. So we've increased that width from 16 feet to 20 feet for the fire department. That 20 feet is typically that minimum they like to see. The other thing, if the fire code says if your home is over 30 feet in height, then you need to increase that driveway or flag portion to 26 feet. And so someone may need you know, wider frontages for that so that they can add an extra foot of for that flag pole portion of the lot. And there's some exemptions to that too, or exceptions in the fire code. You know, so for the fire marshal to review when he sees a set of plans. So maybe it could be still at 25 if they meet one of the exceptions.
For a ladder truck, is that?
Yeah, they just told me they need a different size apparatus when it's a home.
Outriggers on it or?
Yes, yep,
Yeah, so, yeah, okay.
yep. Let's see. Oh, in our code, we required if there's let me pull this up. Sorry, I've got way too many tabs open. It's a little hard to see, but this road width right here, you know, it shows 20 feet of hard surface. And then if you have a fire hydrant, you need to provide 26 feet for that bulb out right there. Our current code requires 31 feet for that bulb out. So we've shrunk that from 31 feet to 26 feet to meet the fire code. Now someone, you know, they could put their fire hydrant, if it meets the distance requirements, they could put it at the entrance and they wouldn't need to do that bulb out. But, you know, this is just if where the fire hydrant is located. So I think that's most of the items I had. Again, I provided you this table that shows you, you know, with the different communities, if they allow flag lots or not, who allows more than one lot to access a driveway. So of the 12 cities that allow flag lots along the Wasatch Front, 6 of them do allow that you can share a driveway on that, so.
Can we go back to the diagram, Mike?
Yeah.
So lot 4, according to this, is really landlocked, except for an easement that would be described on the flagpole of lot 3, right?
Correct.
So what about utilities for lot 4? Can they share the sewer? Can they share water line? I mean, how do you?
Yeah, I talked to engineering and what we would probably do, because you have to have a 10-foot separation between your sewer and your water lines. So we'd probably have the 2 water lines, because we'd want separate water lines for them. So you'd have your, you know, for example, your water lines on the 2 water lines going down the next to lot 2, and your sewer lines going down lot 1. You know, and then they would cross, you know, at some point. But yeah.
Just keeping them in the same trench with each other, yeah.
So you would run 2 sewer lines?
Yes. Yep.
You'd run 2 separate sewer lines?
That's correct.
Yeah, I mean, this isn't the city's problem, but in the future, when lot 4 needs to redo their sewer line and rip up the whole driveway, you know, or who maintains that driveway between lot 4 and lot 3? I mean, that's almost like common area HOA language between the 2 homeowners or something. They'd have to enter into some sort of agreement, but that's not really the city's problem, but I think that, I see that being a bit of a.
Yeah.
So can the sewer lines do the same trench?
I'm not good with that stuff. I can just tell you what Trent told me. Let me pull that up.
I was told the same trench, but not the same line.
What?
Not the same line, but the same trench.
Yes, two of them in the same trench.
shelf, I'll put your water up here on this shelf.
Is pretty much everything going in buried electrical these days?
Seems to me it'd be easier to just put a larger sewer line, down, to design for pole tunnel.
Yeah, all Trent told me, he's our assistant city engineer, he just said the important thing is that at least 10 feet of separation needs to be maintained between the culinary and sewer laterals per state requirements. We could put both culinary laterals to one side of the driveway and the sewer laterals to the other side of the driveway and put PI laterals up the middle, or put the sewer just off center of the driveway and put the culinary and PI laterals to the sides. There are other options as well.
Okay, so it sounds like it can be in the same trench.
Yeah, so, as you look at our general plan, there's things to consider, about infill housing. Are we preserving and protecting our neighborhoods? Are we proactively planning for future growth and change? Striking this balance between future growth and demands while safeguarding the little bit of country, preserving existing neighborhoods, maintaining neighborhood stability, and ensuring new buildings complement the scale of existing ones. And so, those are things you need to consider. One other item I just wanted to, I just remembered wanted to run by you to get your opinion on. We had two conflicting sections in the ordinance as well. Let me find that.
There was a 25 and a 30 or something?
Yeah, so one section allowed for an accessory structure to be 35 feet in height, and one section allowed the accessory structure to be 20 feet in height. And so I wanted to get your opinion on that. I had taken out the 20-foot one and just kept it the same as a standard single-family lot in the city.
Accessory structure, what do you?
This be your shed or your detached garage or something like that.
So,
No,
so one area says 35, one limits it to 20?
yes.
Yeah, 20 is not very big. If you wanted to put a barn or a garage with an accessory apartment on the top of the garage, or.
Yeah, that's what I said, the accessory apartment, we did that recently, we changed something to where it can go higher if there's an accessory apartment above a garage. Would that mess with that?
No, this would, if you kept the 35 feet. Now, the 35 feet, you also have to have a 30-foot rear yard setback. It's called our buildable area. So if you keep that 30-foot setback, then you can go to 35 feet. If you are outside the buildable area, say you want a 5-foot setback from in the backyard, then you're limited to 20. And that's what it is in a normal neighborhood in the R120 zone. So this is keeping consistent with that on flag lots.
Has there been any rough looking at even how many of these are possible in the city?
I mean, just looking quickly, we have about a dozen, and that's over 100 years. So I think you'll see more. I think you'll see more, especially if we allow them to be adjoining and to share. But I don't know how
I'm
many more.
thinking most people probably don't. I mean, there's not a lot of properties that have enough to split and have a half-acre, 2 half-acre lots.
I would think there'd be quite a few.
When we get down to pure infill, there might be several.
Yeah, but I don't think
Make it
there's
work.
thousands of them in the city. That's what I'm saying. I don't think it's.
I mean, you take this street, for example, because you got to have 35 feet. You got to have 25 feet for the lane. You got to have another 10 foot for your setback. So, this property, 276 couldn't, but 292 and 302, they might be able to.
What's their frontage?
Yeah, that again, it depends on their frontage.
Well, but even the frontage, I don't think you could divide those in half and have,
No.
you couldn't take those two and make four.
No.
You
No.
could maybe make three, but that's not, that's a
I don't
single
know,
flag lot
those,
anyway.
those look like they're just half acres to begin with.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so that's what,
What about across from my house, Mike? Right there, that looked like a big flag lot there.
And I wish, sorry, I'm using our GIS map because the county parcel map isn't working, but, you know, I'm just measuring here. They got 50 feet of frontage,
Yeah.
almost, 40,
Sort of waste of,
yeah.
Oh,
they-
Something's wrong there, because actually that house, the house's lot stops right behind it, and the rest of that's included in that as well.
I mean, they could do one here, this one across the, you know, to the north doesn't, 546 doesn't have enough frontage, probably.
Right.
They could do one
But
back behind.
they could sell off a half acre of their rear.
And they could already do that.
They
Yeah.
could do
but that's a single
Flag
flag
lot
lot. That's what
going
I'm saying. I don't know, there's very many properties in the city where we actually will have a dual,
You could have
I mean,
two.
it's,
When people come talk to us, the limiting factors are usually frontage and then the setback. Because they may have 25 feet, but they don't have 35 feet. And those are the two typical limitations.
what,
Okay.
run that by me again, the 35-foot setback, where is that?
The third-
It's 25 feet, sorry, 10, you gotta have 35 feet. So 25 feet for frontage and a 10-foot side yard setback for the existing home. So you gotta have 35 feet
Oh,
to be able to,
yeah.
What's the diagram? Can you show me that on the
Yeah.
diagram?
yep.
now you gotta
Sorry,
have
it's
20,
not clicking for them.
25 for the
Where did I
lane, huh?
put it?
Details, somebody's gonna come to us wanting an exception on every one of these details.
So that's why they're trying to get rid of some of the.
Yeah.
Okay. So you gotta have your 25 feet at minimum frontage here, plus a 10-foot side yard
Well, you're saying,
setback.
like if there's an existing home already
Yes.
there, that, a lot of times it's pushed over too far this way to allow
They've
for
gotta
that.
have
Okay.
20
Yeah.
So they would
feet,
need
and then they've gotta
35
have
feet.
25
Okay.
on the side.
Yeah,
of the house.
when most people come in and talk to Britton and I, that's what they can't meet is usually that, keeping a 10-foot side yard setback.
Yeah,
Oh,
Yeah.
plus the 30
Plus
yard,
the
plus the
25.
30 rear.
Yeah.
yeah. Well, I look at these general plan things, you know, and I was kind of looking through those as you read them, and to me, especially with 20,000 square foot lots, I can't really see how this could really take away from neighborhoods.
It's still a big,
you know, or-
it's a big lot.
Way bigger than most of Orem.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, I can't,
Most
I
what people are
can't
wanting.
see how it would, you know, reading through these, how it would not continue to preserve neighborhoods or, preserve and protect the neighborhoods as diverse and attractive places. I think it still would. Or maintain neighborhood stability, and also provide new building places for people to live
Yeah.
and infill and ways people could use their property.
I think the only downside
That-
could be,
I mean, to me, that's, it looks that way.
I think the only downside could be the neighbors surrounding that flag lot who like looking at horse pasture are now gonna look at homes. But that's the reality of it. I mean, that could be the only downside to it.
But they're still gonna have an awfully big lot to look at.
That's true.
If it's a 20,000 square foot lot.
I think we should address the issue we kind of talked about at the beginning about
Stacking them.
stacking, that they can't be stacked, they've gotta be, you know,
Side by side.
side by side or,
I
yeah.
like, I
How do
agree
you
with
word
that.
that? They
Well,
have to
you'd
be,
have to put a maximum length of the drive, I guess.
the lots have to be 90 degrees to the
Yeah.
flag pole or something.
I
Well, or
can
just say
figure
the
that
flag
out.
can't go past the first flag residence, you know, you have to add in the flag.
I
But like I
that,
said, you
yeah.
gotta have, if it's gonna go past there, you gotta have a 40-foot. I just don't see how, I mean, if you're gonna have the flag of 25 and a 15-foot setback on your residence and a flag, I don't think anybody's gonna give up 40 feet on both sides. Or, you know, I mean, I just don't think it's gonna happen.
Do you mean where the flag lot ends, or
Yeah, where
is
the
that what you're
pole
talking
ends.
about?
Well, if the pole's gonna go on to property 3 that's above it, then you're gonna have to have a 40-foot I mean, you just lose all that property all the way through the pole.
3,000 square foot lot.
So the pole ends where the properties start, is that what you're thinking, or?
Well.
The pole ends at the front setback line.
Yeah.
or
Yeah,
something.
maybe
that's
something like
what
that,
I'm
and then you couldn't go on to,
That's what
couldn't have
I'm
a pole going on
Yeah,
past.
But it has to be able to give access, lot 4 access, has to go beyond that, doesn't it?
Well, the pole doesn't, but there's gonna have to be an easement.
The easement does.
There'll have to be an easement between the 2 properties. Cause the pole isn't part of the lot 3's driveway, so it doesn't have to be part of lot 4's driveway, but there'll need to be an access easement.
You're bringing this to us, I'd love to hear from you, and I don't know if you're prepared to tell us, I'm assuming this has something to do with your property.
Yeah,
And I'd love to know what you're thinking.
I'll tell you, there's 2 things that precipitated my thoughts and our thoughts. As you know, as commissioners, we have talked about flag lots and using back lots in Lindon for years.
Hey, Rob, let me have you pull that mic
Oh,
just a
yes.
little closer.
We've said that there's going to have to be some thing looked at that would allow us to infill. The way we've developed our city with these larger lots, there's a lot of infill property that's just landlocked. And it just doesn't make sense with the taxes and everything else to landlock land and not be able to use it. And so we're looking at that. I have a son who's a lobbyist, and he's up at the legislature, and he was telling me how much the legislature is really putting pressure on the cities to provide access for buildable lots. I mean, our communities are getting built out, and I think you can tell me, Mike, don't they even check with the cities each year to see what you've done?
Yeah.
And this would be something that we could hang our hat on and say, hey, we've come up with a way to create some additional lots, maybe less expensive than if they were on a frontage, and that would help with a little bit lower cost, housing. But I think Mike and I have talked a lot about this over the years, about how much land we've got, we could use, but we can't right now. And so that was one precipitating factor for me. If you'll look at my lot there, and the other thing is I have a family member that wants to build a house. And so Mike has outlined my octopus lot right there. And if you look at the very north end of it, yeah, there you go, right there, that triangle, that is completely landlocked. And I've been trying to figure out a way that I could get access to that. I've talked with a couple of neighbors to the north and to the west of me, but they don't have adequate sized lots that they could work with me to give me an access without making them in violation of the minimum lot size. So I've approached Gary and Judith Taylor, and if you'll point to their lot right there, they have a little over an acre, and they have the potential of doing a flag lot too. And so what we have talked about is creating a pole like that, so that now their home is on that lot right there.
Okay.
And my lot would have access from the pole right there, and they then would have access right there. And you can kind of see how that 45's over, and they would have frontage on that pole, and I would have frontage on the other lot. And all of those lots are 20,000 square foot lots. So they wouldn't be shoehorned in there like, one lot right in front of another lot. And what sometimes when we think about flag lots, we think about it that way, is one house and then another house right behind it. This would really open up, and the terrain of that land is really beautiful, that you could build a lot on the lot that's to the left. My lot is on a slope, so you could build a nice home, kind of facing northeast, and then Gary could build a nice home facing either west or north on that other lot. They're beautiful lots.
It's the only way you can utilize property like that, really.
Yeah.
to me, it's a benefit to the community because the other side of that is people die off and all you end up is with weed patches everywhere, the backs where there's no access to, you know, and fire hazards, and I'd rather have homes back there.
And that would leave me with the rest of my property, of course, just the way it is. It doesn't affect that. It
Yeah,
would
I was
just
wondering
create-
how you were gonna utilize the drive you already got to pick up anything.
That's
So
way
that,
too
yeah,
long.
this all makes total sense, yeah.
So that's what we're not here tonight to present that plan. We're here just to do the ordinance, and if the city council would approve that ordinance, then we'll come back with a site plan and want to build a house there. My grandson and his wife are interested in building a house there.
Very cool.
That's great.
Just don't run over Gary's fake horse.
I don't know, I'm gonna negotiate with him.
I kind of thought that it could go out at the end of the lane by the,
There you go.
there you go, I like that.
Okay. Are we done with the presentation?
Just
Or-
maybe I
and-
may say one more thing.
Yep.
The schedule that Michael has worked hard and got, if you'll notice, let's see, Orem had 4 lots. You could do 4 lots. Some had 3,
PG was 4. I
some
think,
had
as
2.
No, PG showed us two.
Orem was only 4.
well. Oh,
The only one
Orem
that
was
was
4, okay.
But,
Got it.
you know, I'm not proposing that it be more than 2, but
Oh, Orem
that
went
would
to
be
4.
up to the city council, I guess, if they wanted to increase that. But 2 seems reasonable, and we can always look at it again down the road.
And I guess, Mike, how would you access 4? Without doing, I'm just trying to, you'd have to almost come in and almost do like a mini like a turnaround, and
Well,
do 4 lots off it.
where they're doing, and you can find several of them over in Orem, but they are much smaller lots.
Yeah,
Yeah, they are.
20,000 square feet.
I just can't imagine 2 acres sitting back, and
Yeah.
putting in there and doing around it, so.
I don't think, the question was asked, how many of these could be done? If you really analyze it, I don't think there's tons, but there's some, and it would open up the opportunity.
Well, but it would really at least open up the possibility of utilizing property that otherwise
can't
is
be
not gonna
used.
get utilized.
I mean, I think about the property behind Deanne Terry's, if she's, the cook zone or what. I mean, there's something like that could probably put a couple back there. Just,
Yeah.
that's kind of landlocked now, but there's
Historical lots.
some of these
These guys do.
these lots that,
Yeah.
but like I said, I don't think there's hundreds of them anywhere.
And
There's
it's
probably
not-
dozens.
This is, the request is not to get out of building a cul-de-sac or a street. It's just to open up the potential for landlocked lots.
Yeah.
For additional housing.
But I think it is to get out, I mean, I'm on board with that, to get away from having the expense of putting in a cul-de-sac.
No, because in this, now look at my situation.
Not
You
yours,
couldn't
but I
put
can
a,
think of some
yeah, but you
others.
couldn't put a 50-foot road in. You don't have the frontage.
Nor would it make
That's what I'm
sense.
saying, it doesn't make sense sometimes to.
Right.
Yeah,
To go through the expense and
all
the
that,
dimensions.
all that infrastructure just to pick up an additional lot.
Yeah.
And the other thing when,
Sorry, what they were saying though is if you did that with too much, then it would make it so that only one could be built. and not
Yes.
The other one could be built, and that's what we're trying to avoid, is that we both can build on that piece of property.
Well, and my guess, Rob, is it would be too expensive to put that in, and that property would never be built on.
And these are the Taylors.
Yeah. And do you, for the record, since you made a comment, would you just state your name?
Judy Taylor?
Judy Taylor. Did you get that, Brittany? Just for our notes.
And Gary.
Okay.
Gary used to work for Lindon City.
Yeah, so. Perfect.
So just a comment to the discussion of the extra lot in the back, like extending that road further. To me, it seems the ordinance is well enough written that if there is a big enough lot that is really, really deep, that could still be an option, and it may be worth leaving that as an option rather than having specific language to take that out.
I think to his point, you bump up against how far we can go in a cul-de-sac.
Fire gets involved in that. There might be.
So
a
that would
possibility.
limit it.
That's fair, and
That would prevent a sort of a break, or that would sort of present a break stop of how far you could go back.
and what I'm saying is that's already in the language of it, because it says over 150 feet, you have to follow the fire code.
Yeah.
That's section, I don't remember what it was.
Like, this is one that the commission approved a number of years ago, 2-3 years ago, behind, I think that Citizenship Park. You know, they had their lane to come back to this home here. We wouldn't want them having probably 2 homes on this lot.
How would that be bad?
Because I don't think you're meeting the intent of the ordinance. Yeah, this one's unique, because this was the only place you could build was where this home is, but.
On the other side, that's right.
I mean, we're not, the intent is not to try and just maximize the number of homes. It's on an access, it's to make it so people can use the back of their homes.
What is the distance of that drive?
They had to provide a fire hydrant up here. They had to have enough for a fire truck turnaround. Yeah, the halfway
I
up,
remember when we did that.
Yeah, that's a long
a fire hydrant right in here.
long access.
Yeah, so all I'm saying is, if there is a lot, or if there is a lot that is really deep, we don't need to exclude that.
No, they could still do like
As
this
long as they're
one.
still following all the code
But
that
I don't think we want one so it's stacking them into thirds.
and that's what I'm not understanding as to why. Because if you have a 2.5 acre lot and you want to stick 2 houses
Yeah.
behind the existing one, why not?
Cross into like a private lane, cross into a road, I mean, into the sort of the conversation of
Yeah, I
classifying it as a.
to me, it's kind of going outside the scope of what we're looking at, but I think we're,
Well, what about the ones that are up here across, just north of the school? They put 2 lots, there's
Which-
3 homes sort of stacked.
which one,
Yeah.
which school?
Right here above the hollow.
Williamson's.
Oh, now that one is on
That's a private lane.
it's a public street.
Oh, is it?
So what we did on this one was to help protect the hollow, so we said in a flood zone, when your property adjoins a flood zone, we want to try and protect as much property as we can. So we came up with a different public street road profile. So I think they're providing 29 feet of asphalt, still curb and gutter on both sides.
And that's what I'm saying, is that when we start stacking 3, then maybe you're starting to have conversations about,
More of a public street.
you know, making it a public street, maybe with a different profile, but something like that.
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah. And I've also ran into issues where, you know, in South Salt Lake, we did tons of these little 3-lot planned unit developments. They were on a 20-foot drive, and 20 years later, they didn't collect any money from the HOA to maintain that, and they were always asking the city to take over their road, you know, because they didn't have enough funding to, you know, for that road. And so I'm a little worried I think we keep it to 2. Rob and I had talked about, do we do 3, do we do 4? You know, I felt more comfortable with 2 as a recommendation, so.
That's fair.
But again, going to Jared's point, those neighbors are still gonna need to work out, hey, how we're gonna replace that concrete in 20 years or whatever, so.
One question on just the minutia. I noticed the numbering and lettering is a little off because we removed 4, and so 5 is gonna bump up. Do we have to
Okay.
worry about that in approving this, or is that just taken care of?
No, I can fix that. You just tell me that it needs to be fixed and I'll go
Okay.
through it tonight before I,
2F should be 2E, and then everything after 4.
perfect. No, it's great, because then it saves, when Brittany sends it to be codified, they send me a nasty email back saying, hey, you need to fix this, so.
All of a sudden lot four is named.
Any other comments, Rob? Or
Buddy, stop.
anything else from you, Mike?
Nope.
Okay. How about the commission? Does anybody,
The easement takes precedence over the lien.
Looks like Mike's put a lot of thought into it and worked with the city attorney on it, and I think it's in line with the state's plans of providing, you know, the opportunity for a little bit more density, a little bit more infill, so I'm in support. You need to open and close? What?
I don't think this is a public hearing, is it?
It's an
Yeah.
ordinance amendment, so,
Do we need to, oh, it is a public hearing.
yeah.
I missed that part, so, okay, let's go ahead and, open the public hearing. Do I have a motion to open the public hearing?
I motion.
Do we
I
have a-
second.
Which one of you wants to be motion second?
I think he was first.
And Mike, are you ready to do a second then? Okay,
Second it.
we have a motion and a second to open the public hearing.
All in favor?
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, the public hearing's now open. Is there anybody here from the public that would like to address the commission on this issue? Hearing none, I'll call for a motion to
I'll
close
move-
the public
I'll
hearing.
move to close the public hearing.
I'll second it.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? The public hearing's closed. Okay, council or commission, any further comments before we're ready for a motion? Okay, then I'll call for a motion.
I'll move.
Okay,
I'd make a motion. I move to recommend approval of ordinance amendment 2025-2-0 as presented, or no changes.
Did we make some changes in the language of how long the lane could be or anything like that?
Yeah, we probably need to add that the lane won't extend past the front setback.
Oh, we did say that, didn't we? Okay, I move to recommend approval, again, of the ordinance amendment 2025-2-0, with the only change being the maximum lane. It stops at the setback of the first home. The setback of the front setback of the
Front
first home.
property
Yeah,
line is-
for the property line.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? The voting is unanimous, and that will move on to the city council. Mike, is that,
Rob, does Monday work for you?
Yep.
City council? Okay.
okay, so. Good luck with that.
Solution for that.
Yeah.
That's a tricky.
Rob, would you like your spot back?
You stay there.
We'll move on to item 5 of our agenda, which is our Community Development Director report and Commissioner reports.
Does the commission have any questions for me, any updates or anything that you want me to report on?
A question. A while back, we heard, well, they came in requesting to be able to do a lot of different things there on 400 North, the place that wanted to have the classes and the,
Yes.
and we told them they had to put in a restroom or some type of restroom facilities.
Yes.
I've noticed a lot of construction going on there. I wondered what they're doing there.
The only thing I know of that they're doing is building a fence. They're continuing their rock fence, and they've been doing, I think, some upgrades to their home. If they're doing more, then I'm not aware of it.
I
that-
don't know for sure. There's just a lot of construction going on.
Okay.
A lot of workers.
Yeah, I don't know for sure. I can reach out to them. They have not been to the city council yet. I reached out to them today, and our plan is to go on May 19th to the planning commission, to the city council. I think what they're going is I met with them about 3 weeks ago. I think they're gonna stay as a home occupation license, and then next summer they want to tear down the home and then look at building their kind of barn that they would use and put a restroom in that with, you know, and be able to do their classes and their flower sales out of that barn next year, if the ordinance passes.
No, that's great. Sometime it might be interesting to just drive down that road though and
Okay.
kind of,
It's a lot of stuff.
yeah.
It's exciting. I'm excited to see what
Yeah,
they're doing.
yeah, but there's a lot of construction going on there.
And I guess, speaking of construction, a question, Walker Farms, is it the Jorgensens? The owner? Is that just a personal barn that's going up in the field next to their house, I'm assuming? Because we would have seen a site plan if it was related to the,
It's an agricultural barn, and so the planning commission didn't need to see that one under the commercial farm zone. But yes, it's a very expensive
it looks
barn
like, it looks
for
like a very expensive.
3 or 4
agricultural
llamas.
barn.
Yeah. Or alpacas, whatever they are.
The alpacas are gonna
They don't,
live in comfort.
the alpacas don't support that farm.
I really think it's something
I can get it later.
for Mike to do, to keep busy, so.
I mean,
And I hear Allen College is due home on August 15th or something like that. And according to his children, they're 9 at the bit. He's 9 at the bit to get busy, so
Yeah,
we'll see what he does when he gets home.
Dane told me that we should be receiving building plans in the next week or so for the little market thing that we,
Oh, the red
The
historic
red
barn.
barn?
yeah.
Interesting.
So I'm sure that's getting teed up for Alan when he gets home, so.
Yeah.
Well, that went quick.
Well, he was only actually out of the country for
You didn't leave
a year. He didn't
while.
leave for almost 6 months waiting for his visa for Papua New Guinea.
Yeah.
And then he's had quite the experience in Papua New Guinea, so he's ready to be home, from what I understand.
okay,
Is
I
there,
have a question. Oh,
okay, yeah, go ahead.
the work that's going on 700, is that for the light?
It is,
Yay,
yep.
that's great.
Yeah, there'll be a new traffic signal going in there at Anderson Boulevard, so,
Good.
yep. We finally got the property owner on the north side to sign the deeds. It took about 6 months, and UDOT, as soon as we had them signed, UDOT scheduled it, so.
Oh, that's great.
and then on 700 North, is there additional public information on that development? Is it,
Not yet.
Okay.
Or
is there a timeline?
we've been doing some negotiations with them, and so we're still working on that, but
Great.
Yeah. I'd mentioned to you before, and Jared's certainly familiar with this, the home on 835 East and 400 North that will be going up for sale. There is concern with quite a few neighbors that doesn't go up for sale and become
oh,
with both the basement and the garage rented again, and also that corner might be cleaned up again.
yeah,
There's
so
a lot
I,
of concern with neighbors.
yeah, I was getting a lot of calls about that, so I sent a letter to them, and they called me back and said they are not, this is according to them, they were only renting the basement, they were not renting the garage. And I made this sure they knew that they were allowed 1 accessory apartment on the property, so.
They must have been letting the other family live there for free then.
I don't know. I did write them a letter. I've had a number of calls about that property, and I've let people know that it is not a triplex. It's a single-family home with 1 accessory apartment.
And it needs to be owner occupied.
Yes.
And I guess what the concern is too, that the property in itself does need to be cleaned up. It's, I know they were within the animal rights ordinance, and they were doing a lot of gardening there,
Yeah.
but if that isn't, if the gardening isn't kept up, things like that, it could really look, well, it
Well-
used to be a very nice.
Well, my
corn
wife's
piece.
uncle and aunt live next door, so he hasn't attacked me at a family gathering, so.
Yeah,
So
I know you're very familiar with the property.
Vern and Amy Hart, that's my wife's uncle. Yep.
Yeah.
It's her dad's brother, so,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah.
Jared knows what I'm talking about.
Yeah, but we don't have a landscape ordinance that would be able to enforce on that. And
Well, but if it's not.
I agree, it would be nice to see it looking better.
But if it's not into gardening or something like that, then it wouldn't be within the, if it's just allowed to grow up into junk, it wouldn't be within the landscape ordinance.
We don't have a residential landscape ordinance.
If
as
it's,
far as I
well,
know.
you can't let it be more than
For new homes.
6 inches.
Yeah, it just says it could be all weeds, but it's just gotta be less than 6
Okay.
inches.
There's that, yeah, you're right.
I guess one more thing, just to, it
But we'll keep an eye on
appears,
that.
just by asking questions, that there are now not separate entrance accessory apartments, but accessory apartments in Songbird Cove.
Yeah, and let me explain that to you.
Where was that?
In Songbird Cove, the new development.
So let me pull up a code real quick.
Oh, okay.
And the state kind of did a number to us. Sorry, this is not working. Okay.
Our biggest concern there is parking, not so much the people. I mean, parking already is starting to become an issue, and we're not fully sold out.
So we adopted our ordinance, and we adopted that map saying, here's where you're allowed to have, here's the areas prohibited to have accessory dwelling units. And we included the single-family portion of the Songbird Cove for that. So that was in 2022, we did that. In 2023, the legislature came back and amended the accessory apartment code, and they said they kept the language 25% or less of the total area of the municipality that is zoned primarily for residential use. So sorry, going back, it said in letter 4, a municipality may, and then in FI says F, prohibit the creation of an internal accessory dwelling unit within a zoning district covering an area that is equivalent to 25% or less of the total area in the municipality that is zoned primarily for residential use. That's where it used to stop in 2021 up until 2023. So we took areas of our city and like Anderson Farms, Fieldstone, this section of single-family homes for Songbird, and that equaled 6% of our community, a residential area, and we said you're not allowed to have ADUs in that area. Well, in 2023, the legislature added language after the comma there and said, except that the municipality may not prohibit newly constructed internal accessory dwelling units that, and they added, have a plat approved dated on or after October 1st, 2021. So then they went back 2 years, probably because, this is my opinion, some friend had a plat that was recorded in October 1st, 2021 that wanted ADUs, and so they added that. So there's not 7 of the 19 lots in Sago Homes that could have an accessory apartment if they meet our requirements. So if I know which ones have an ADU, then I'll write them a notice and say, you've got to meet the parking, you've got to have a parking stall, and things like that. So, and we would get a building permit and stuff. So I would just need to know which ones so I can make sure they have them. But yeah, so in 2023, the legislature updated this, and so essentially you could, even a few of the lots in Anderson Farms, if they had a plat approved after 2021, could have some ADUs down there, and I think there are anyways. There's some. So
So
There's many,
if we
not
would have
some,
put a
many.
minimum square footage on the lot size,
the state already did that.
they
They
wouldn't allow you to do.
they said in letter H right here, the city may prohibit the creation of an internal accessory unit if the lot containing the primary dwelling is 6,000 square feet or less. So we have to allow them on any lot greater than 6,000 square feet. And there was a plat after October 1st, 2021. Yeah, Cole reached out to me this week, Councilman Hooley, and so I did all the research on it, and
Yeah, we're probably getting our information from the same source, but just, you know,
Wow.
when you ask a neighbor where they live and they say in the basement of, you know, then that,
yeah. So if I know which ones, then we will.
Are there basement entrances on those homes?
no, I don't
There's
think,
no basements in the I don't think on those homes.
I
Are there?
don't think there's any,
Well, there are in the townhomes there are.
well, that's the thing, it might even be in the townhomes, which should be prohibited by
Those are
square
already
footage.
prohibited. Yeah,
But it just happens. I mean, I don't know how to,
yeah.
but the parking is starting to be, I mean,
That's what
That's
gets a
always
mess.
the parking's all on the street now.
Yeah.
I mean, there's,
What happens?
nobody parks in their garage, or they have 5 cars, because there's 2 cars in the driveway and 3 cars on each road, and it's just,
Yeah.
You can't mandate people.
Or under our ADU ordinance, the state says you have to you can only require 1 parking stall for an ADU. And until we get told otherwise, we've said that has to be, I believe, behind the front setback, but I've got to check the ordinance on that.
so. I don't know if any of those in Songbird Cove
They
could
don't have enough room. They've got 6-foot
Yeah, I
setbacks,
don't
side
think you
yard
could put
setbacks.
a car on the side, but. So, okay, that just,
Yeah, and this even says you've got to you've got to comply with applicable land use regulations,
Okay.
so.
And that code is really only parking.
Yeah, 6,000 square foot minimum parking, yeah.
and then, I'm sure you don't know anything, but I'll ask, any update on when the temple's gonna open?
No,
That's the
number
question of the
one
year, right?
question.
If I can get that in the minutes, I'll be popular.
yeah, they told me that 6 months ago, they told me that they had to, the Zwick Construction had to turn the temple over to the church at the end of Q1 of 2025, but I think they've missed that. So, and then they told me it'd be 4 to 6 months after that for an open house.
So probably this fall, winter,
Yeah.
for an open house.
Yeah, we did meet with Spanish Fork City today, asking for our experience in approving a temple, so that was fun.
That's exciting.
Anything else from anybody on the commission or from the staff? If not, I'll call for a motion to adjourn the meeting.
I move to we adjourn.
I second it.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? The voting is unanimous to close the meeting.
Those streets are so narrow.
Yeah,
If they park on both sides,
yep,
can you even get through?
barely.
Are they parking on both sides?
Well, maybe I'll see you tomorrow,
Who
Jerry.
knows? You just don't drive down that.
Is it till 2?
I think Siri's telling me. No, she calls